An individual had watched some folks get out of a Tesla. The individual then went to the liquor store. The people in the Tesla walked by. After that, they left the liquor store. They didn't buy nothing, and they went and scratched the Tesla. Here's a video of them walking by the Tesla. We need help identifying them. If you know who this person is, please contact Detective Brown. The number is here at the bottom of the screen. And for the person who did this, we have this nice little video here for you.
Here at the Orange Jumpsuit District Inn and Suites, we have friendly staff who is ready to greet you.
All right, that's what we got for you. $3,200 worth of damage is what took place here. Resist the Tesla temptation. Stop damaging these cars all around the country. And we're tired of our insurance rates going up. And what are you really accomplishing? Knock this off.
Several days later.
The suspect here is a woman in their late 20s. They turned themselves in. They were brought in with their family. They've been fully cooperative. The victim in this case just wanted their car fixed, and they just wanted the suspect to pay for that. Based on the totality of the circumstances here, and along with our core value of being compassionate, this is the best outcome for everybody involved in this case. But let me be clear here. In Bloomington, you probably have never heard me utter these words. The suspect in this case may have been a victim. And I mean victim in terms of the rhetoric that is being spewed out here by some of those in leadership. We need our leaders to start leading and stop feeding this rhetoric. People should be able to drive whatever car they want without fear of going into a store and someone scratching their car, or people yelling at them because of the car that they choose to drive.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about a fascinating story out of Hennepin County, Minnesota. Now, Hennepin County includes Minneapolis. Okay, this is a major metropolis where you have a lot of deranged lunatics running around vandalizing Teslas. Okay, and this story involves a woke county attorney, Miss Moriarty, who is facing a whole lot of backlash from police for her soft on crime approach that now is coming under the spotlight because she is basically refusing to charge this Tesla terrorist who caused over $20,000 in damages.
Tension is flaring once again between the Hennepin County Attorney's Office and the Minneapolis Police Department over the decision by Mary Moriarty to not file any criminal charges against a man accused of causing more than $20,000 in damage to multiple Teslas across Minneapolis. Officers tracked the man down using video like this one, recorded by 6 different Teslas that he vandalized across the city. At the time of his arrest, Chief Brian O'Hara alluded to this being an open and shut case based on the quality of evidence. Morgan Wolf is breaking down the fallout in tonight's top story.
Just frankly, this is pretty stupid.
Last week, Minneapolis police announced they tracked down a man that had damaged a total of 6 Tesla cars in the metro.
There's high quality video on all these cars. It's committing a crime with a spotlight on you.
Chief Brian O'Hara's tone changed when he learned that Hennepin County District Attorney Mary Moriarty wouldn't be charging him. Instead, he would be given an option called diversion to pay restitution to the victims.
In this case, it's a little bit unusual that it hasn't even been charged. Typically, after the charging, it goes to diversion.
Attorney Shauna Kiefer points out that diversion programs are common for property damage cases. Moriarty's office sent us a statement emphasizing the man has no record, saying in part, quote, "We want to make sure that we are very clear what he did was wrong and we are holding him accountable for keying the cars. The man will need to pay restitution for the damage that is totaling up to $20,000. And if he doesn't,
they could be charged and go back into the regular criminal proceedings."
Minneapolis police also sent us a statement saying they did their job Any frustration related to the charging decision of the Hennepin County Attorney should be directed solely at her office. Our investigators are always frustrated when the cases they pour their hearts into are declined.
Waste and abuse.
The issue of vandalism of Teslas has risen to the White House. This is what the president said last month.
Well, I view these people as terrorists just like others. To equate it with somebody who's committing actual acts of terrorism does a disfavor to the real terrorist acts out there.
Attorney Mike Brandt says that this case is about property damage. Diversion works to make victims whole again.
I think she's recognized that these types of things have such huge collateral impacts on people's lives.
Different prosecutors might charge that differently, but I think it's really important to keep politics out of charging decisions.
Just within the last few hours, the Anoka County District Attorney Brad Johnson posted this on Facebook. Just so no one gets any silly ideas in the North Metro from this story, offenders who commit a crime spree causing tens of thousands in damages to multiple victims will not be approved for pre-charge diversion in Anoka County. Adding, it makes it worse that the offender is a state employee in a position of public trust. He would likely become a felon in Anoka County.
Now, I want you guys to keep in mind, this woman has a history of run-ins with the police, okay, because she's woke. Also, on top of that, they have accused her of just refusing to do her job, which is to charge people for committing crimes.
Are at odds.
County Attorney's Office is playing a dangerous game with these kids' lives.
Monday, following a violent weekend where 4 kids 14 and under were shot while in a stolen vehicle, and says at least 2 individuals from the stolen car were referred to charges of auto theft on August 9th, adding that his team is in contact and gives referrals to the HCAO daily.
The kids weren't charged. They weren't diverted. And despite pleas from their parents begging for help, begging for them to be detained, they were let back out into the street, into the same environment, to commit more crimes, which they did over the weekend.
He wants to see stricter consequences for these crimes and says parents do too.
We need to do more.
A top official says there's a new plan to stop car thefts by teenagers. As we've been reporting, carjackings and thefts have surged, especially those involving young people. Susan Elizabeth Littlefield shows us why some question the new prevention strategy.
Carjackings, car thefts, and car chases ending in catastrophe. And the offenders, sometimes as young as 12.
What we are trying to do is intervene. This is a focused intervention.
The Hennepin County Attorney unveiled a plan to do just that, working with police departments to identify kids who could fall into trouble and giving support to parents who say they don't know how to handle their kids' behavior.
We don't want youth to have records. And so what we want to do is intervene effectively and early on in the hopes that we can get the youth and their family services that they need.
Mary Moriarty says community organizations and parents are key and that they're working together.
So I do think there's a definite bridge there.
What do you feel like?
I think there could be a bridge. We didn't know that the county attorney was working on anything around this issue. We just got together as a group and said, we need to address this publicly.
I believe that ultimately, at the end of the day, all of these carjackings are coming from a lack of resources with the kids.
We obtained a letter from Moriarty to Bloomington city leaders, Hodges' bosses. In it, she criticizes Hodges and one of his officers who made offhanded comments saying she's unwilling to prosecute some drug cases.
And I don't have a problem with what they said because they told the truth.
But going to his bosses first is a quite different matter.
The problem is when you send that to mayor, city council, and city manager and all that, and you don't talk to me. In Ramsey County, I was the undersheriff. Never happened. I was a police chief in Prior Lake. Never happened at Scott County.
Our agency submitted.
In Golden Valley, Police Chief Virgil Green says Moriarty has made complaints about him too.
It's a dangerous weapon in the state of Minnesota.
Earlier this year, a student was arrested for using brass knuckles in a fight. Body cam shows an assistant principal telling officers he did not have the brass knuckles, but they were later found in his office.
Opens up his desk and pulls out the brass knuckles.
And Chief Green wanted him charged with felony obstruction. Moriarty declined that charge. Green says she called the mayor, telling her the principal could lose his license and job.
It was more concerned about, this individual could lose his certification, not so much concerned about the injuries to the student.
Green says he's never witnessed a county attorney go this far.
I wish she would have called me up on the phone and said, hey, Chief, can we sit down and can we talk about this? That would have been a lot more respectful.
Yeah, see, now you heard that. Okay, I think we all can understand that this woman is super soft, right, on crime. Okay, she is Charmin ultra soft. Okay, but I mean, come on. She looks like a soft old crime DA, right? She looks woke as hell, okay? Everybody knows a woman with this type of haircut is a problem, right? Is an issue, okay? Is a woke radical, okay? She is Soros-backed, and she is one of these progressive criminal justice reformers, right? She is ultra progressive, and she just chose not to charge the Tesla terrorist, okay, who has been identified as Dylan Brian Adams, okay? This guy is 33 years old and decided that, hey, you know what? While I'm walking my dog, I'm going to key a Tesla, right? Like a radical liberal, okay? Like somebody who's been watching too much MSNBC, okay? He should be thrown in jail, okay? He should be a felon. But he's getting away with it because, again, this woman is super soft on crime. And let's be real. She agrees with what's happening, okay, with the Teslas. She doesn't see it as a crime. No, she just sees it as get back for Elon Musk being an evil billionaire, right? She probably thinks he deserves it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this.
An off-topic question. A lot of people are trying to figure out why you decided not to handle the alleged Tesla vandal the way you did. Many people just can't seem to understand why there are not more severe consequences for the action.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I think it's important that accurate information be out there. So we are and always have been focused on public safety. And if you look at the data on recidivism, in other words, when people come through the system, how often do they come back? If they go through the traditional system and they have a felony conviction on their record, they are much more likely to come back and commit a new crime. That is because a felony conviction destabilizes their lives. They may lose their job, lose their housing, and it can just lead to future criminal activity. What does work, and the recidivism rates are much, much lower, is diversion. And that's been proven over and over here and throughout the country. So diversion is accountability. The case was submitted to us by the police. We did not decline it. We looked at the case. What we really wanted was for the victims in that case to get restitution and for this person to be held accountable. We are accomplishing both of those by requiring him to go through a diversion program and to pay restitution to all 6 victims. What happened to those victims of those Teslas should not have happened. And just like any other property offense, which is one of the lowest level offenses that we have, we seek to hold people accountable in a way that will be consistent with public safety. And diversion is a proven way of doing that.
Wow. This woman's woke as hell. She's woke as hell. Basically what she's saying is that because some woke study, right, which by the way, who believes this stuff? Really? Do you really believe it? Okay, they believe being soft on crime is going to prevent crimes in the future. Now, who knows whether or not the data is accurate, because in the case of this individual, they were never really charged with anything, right? I mean, they literally just played catch and release with this guy, okay, which we've seen how disastrous that has been for a lot of these liberal cities with these progressive DAs, right? Catch and release does not work, okay? Saying that, oh, well, you're just going to pay restitution and, oh, well, you go through some brainwashing program, right? That's all you need. It's like, no, these criminals need real punishment. It should be the bare minimum to pay for the damage. Yeah, you damage somebody's vehicle. Yes, they should have to pay for it. That's like the bare minimum what you should expect, okay? That's the bare minimum. But you also have to be punished for doing the crime, right? The fact that the criminal decided to do it in the first place, they need punishment for that. That is the whole point of the charges, right? That's the whole point. But for whatever reason, this lady doesn't understand that, right? She thinks it's just enough to, oh, well, just pay for it and be done. No, he has to be punished for actually committing the crime, right? That's what he has to be punished for. Paying restitution is not enough, That's not enough. But hey, some of these woke people, okay, that live in these cities, they're okay with that. They're okay with just letting criminals just, get away with it. Notice, look at this woman's team. Look at this woman's team, okay? I'm assuming that's her team, okay? All of these women behind her, yeah. Looks like a whole lot of DEI going on here. I'm just saying. So we know how this office is being run. Pray for Minneapolis, okay? Pray for Minneapolis with lunatics like this in charge.
Does this depart from standard practice? Because a lot of people are charged with felonies for committing felony crimes.
We rely on diversion a lot in our office because we are very focused on public safety. And as I said, if you really care about public safety, you are trying to figure out how do we make the victim whole, which we can do here by making sure that they get restitution. How do you hold the person who did this accountable for keying the cars? We're doing that. He's going to go through programming. But how do you do that in a way that is less likely to make the person come back and commit a new crime? So we are very much focused on public safety. Now, if there are people, there are some people who want people to have felony convictions. That's fine if that's what they want, but that is not about public safety. Making sure you hold people accountable for their actions, which we're doing here, making the victims whole, they are going to get restitution, is a way to hold somebody accountable, make the victims whole, and lessen the likelihood that the person comes back into the system.
These people, again, this is book sense versus common sense, right? I'm telling you. This is book sense versus common sense playing out in real life. I guarantee you, this woman, she read a bunch of woke studies, and this is what she's doing, right? This is why she's doing this, okay? And reality is that's not how it works in real life, okay? You're not going to stop crime by being soft on crime. It has not worked. It's never worked. It's always been a disaster, but yet you have another woke DA. I got to start paying attention to more stories out in Minneapolis, bro. I have to, because, with this woman running Minneapolis, there has to be a lot of cuckoo for Cocoa Puff stuff going on. There has to be. Now, I know these DAs, they be cooking their books, right? So, again, I'm going to have to pay real close attention to what's happening there to see what the effects are on the city from the soft on crime approach, okay? Because there's no way there's not chaos happening in this city as a result of this woman being so soft on crime.
I can respect that point of view, I really can. But there are times where I think, here's this very sensible piece of action that you're taking around gun violence, right? I know that this week there was a person charged with felony property damage for keying a car. They had no criminal record. And my only question to you is, fairly, do you court this element of politics when you make a decision like this, knowing that there's controversy around Teslas? Because I know that this is it's not a uniform policy. It's not like you're going to say as an office, any person who for the first time commits felony property damage isn't going to face a criminal charge. So I just kind of wonder, how do you deal with that element of this where you do have a tension around this specifically because of the nature of this crime?
Yeah, that's a great question. We look at every case, one case at a time. This person did not have a record. For most property offenders without a record, they go to diversion. But the question you raise is a really good one. I had a conversation with somebody who wanted to know why we made this decision. And I said, this is how we handle first-time low-level property cases. Should we have treated this gentleman differently because it's become a political issue? We seek, and I've said this over and over in my term, not to make decisions that are not about politics. So we made this decision because it is in the best interest of public safety. I think what's kind of heartbreaking for me, actually, as I stand up here today, I think about the families. Like I said, we've had 5 or 6 children shot accidentally. I have met with parents, grandparents, dads of those children, and I talk to them and I listen to what they have to say. And it's tragic. And we're here to talk about gun violence and trying to prevent that. And so I think the puzzling thing about this is that is a low-level property crime. And so why aren't we talking about gun violence? Gun violence is the leading cause of death for children in this country.
Okay, you see the left-wing activism here, right? You see the spin, how she tries to reframe the conversation. Well, the reason why we're talking about Teslas is because it's terrorism, okay? You got to understand that it's not just limited to scratching Teslas. These people are shooting up dealerships. They're blowing up Teslas, right? That's why you should be concerned, okay? That's why you should be concerned. Now, again, if this was so-called right-wing terrorism, if this was white supremacy, I guarantee you she wouldn't be using the answer of, well, why are we concerned about gun violence, right? Right? Like she wouldn't be doing that. But she's only doing it because, again, she doesn't really want to talk about the fact that she is not charged as person, primarily because she's soft on crime, but also from a political perspective, not really on her radar, right? In regards to trying to hold people accountable for damaging Teslas in political protest of Elon Musk, okay? Because she probably agrees with the protest. Let's keep it 100. This is how these people roll. This is how they roll, okay? So she's encouraging more of this stuff because, hey, ultimately, they're going to get a slap on the wrist. And this is why Pam Bondi and Kash Patel have to step up, right? They have to step up and intervene when these woke DAs refuse to go after these domestic terrorists, to charge them as they should be charged, to properly punish them. This is why we need the DOJ and the FBI to do their jobs. Do their jobs, okay? They should be going after all of these individuals because what they're doing is terrorism, right? We cannot allow these left-wing extremists to commit acts of violence in this country anymore. We just can't allow it. We cannot allow it. And again, this is why I think it's important for Pam Bondi and Kash Patel to hop on these cases where, again, you have these deranged liberals not facing real punishment for their terrorism. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.